Hey everyone, welcome to today's Spirit Lift for Emmanuel Reformed United Church of Christ. It's a beautiful day up here on God's Hill, and I'm sitting outside with a piece of our history from a daughter church of ours that we have on loan from the Murraysville Historical Preservation Society. Turn the camera here. You can see this was found in a family's yard near where the church used to be. Olive Reformed Church, A.D. 1917. Olive Reformed Church existed from 1917 as a building. It was founded earlier than that as a congregation. They met in other places. And then met as a congregation until 1960. And I want you to remember that number, 1960, because that will become important in a couple moments here. What I want to talk to you about today is about the word change and two types of change that fit in with our series on the book of Job, which we're finishing up this week. We're going to finish up the book of Job in our 5-week series this Sunday. And I want to talk about technical change versus adaptive change. Technical change, leadership people, when they talk about technical change, it's something you pretty much know what the problem is and you pretty much know how to deal with it. So, for example, if I need to change the oil in my car, I can go to the library and get a book on how to change the oil in my car, and away we go. Or you look it up on YouTube and find out how to change the oil in your car. That's a technical change problem. Technical change problems happen with our health too. You go to the doctor and they say, "Oh my goodness, you have high blood pressure. We'll give you this pill, and we think this will bring it down." If everything goes okay, that's what happens. A technical change. Technical change is pretty much you know what the situation is and you know what the solution potentially could be. You try a few things until you get there. Adaptive change, leaders talk about that, and adaptive change is a little more complex because in adaptive change, you don't quite know what the cause is. It might have too many causes to just put it on one thing, and the same with the solution. So adaptive change is something where it's a little more complex than that, and you have to ask yourself, well, how do I deal with this particular change? So adaptive change is something like you go to the doctor again, and this time the doctor says that you're overweight. Well, is there a genetic propensity to being overweight? Is there do you eat when you're bored? Do you not get enough exercise? How many things feed into that diagnosis? And adaptive change means there's not really one answer, one pill that you can provide. That there might be many causes that come together, and you've got to figure out what might be the cause, what might be the prevention method that works for you. And adaptive change, as you can understand, is a lot more complex. Adaptive change is much different from technical change, where there's pretty much one area into which you're going for the solution. Now, one of my theories here is this is why there's so much anxiety and worry around the coronavirus, because that's entirely an adaptive change issue. There's so many things we don't know about the coronavirus at this point. We don't know how deadly it is. We don't know how much transmission there is. There's a whole bunch of things we don't know about the coronavirus and how it is transmitted and how we get to that point. I think that's why people are afraid. I think that's why some people are angry. For some, it seems like an overreaction, the way the country is dealing with the coronavirus. For other people, it's an underreaction. But the truth of the matter is that we're going to have to adaptively change because we don't have enough information right ahead of us right now. So we're going to have to figure out what's the best mitigation strategy for the coronavirus. But this got me to thinking, the same thing we try and do with churches from, take that date, 1960. 1960, is about the time, give or take a little bit, 60 years ago, when the churches in the United States of America started to decline. And we often talk about church membership and say, well, we've seen this church membership begin to decline from the heydays of the late 50s. And so we've got to have a church growth strategy. That's a technical answer. You know, there's a decline in membership, therefore there's a technical answer, and that is church growth strategy. However, because there's so many different causes, I would suggest to you that adaptive change is what is needed. We need to rethink the whole process. Adaptive change says that it's not just membership decline, but there's been a whole cultural sea change in how we operate and how we do things. People have moved out of particular neighborhoods where they used to live. People used to walk to church all the time. That rarely happens anymore. People used to live in the neighborhood of where their church was located, and so on and so forth. There wasn't as much competition on Sunday mornings or Saturday nights for your attention and for your dollars. There's all sorts of issues with how we got to this point, and it's more than just one answer. You know, sometimes we say, okay, we know that we've got membership decline, so we've got to do things like we used to. We've got to have more appealing church suppers or more appealing church services. That's a technical change answer. It may be part of the adaptive change answer, but it's going to take a whole different way of thinking because there's so many different causes. And that got me to thinking about the book of Job and how the book of Job and his struggles, his suffering, is not caused by one particular thing. That Job has to experience adaptive change. That Job's issue with the world around him is that it doesn't seem fair. That Job's issue is God does not seem responsive. So how does one change when he's lost his family, his children have been killed in disasters, while he's lost his health, he's got friends who are not very responsive to his suffering. And adaptive change would say he's got to rethink and re-examine his whole posture towards life. And I was talking with somebody this morning about this, that the book of Job isn't really good for a technical answer for how Job should do it. You know, get up every morning, Job, and be thankful for 5 things before your feet hit the floor. You better eat better and eat right, have a better diet and get some exercise. No, it's going to take a whole adaptive change on behalf of Job. There's not one answer. He's going to have to rethink of how he relates to the world and how he relates to God. And I submit to you and propose to you that we should put our thinking caps on that way, that we should spend time thinking about what adaptive change really means. This may be a new term for you. For some, maybe it isn't. But in any event, it's the world in which we live. Not only the church. I could have talked about schools. I could have talked about healthcare. I could have talked about politics. I could have talked about any of the things that are currently facing our world right now. That's where the coronavirus example came from. And shown us that we really are in the midst of a world where adaptive change is really, really important. And thinking about how we get here and how we find solutions to a really complex and multifaceted world. I hope you will have the imagination and bravery and courage of Job. And I invite you to tune into our worship service on Sunday to check it out. All right, blessings to you all. Miss you all. Hope to see you soon. Church service is open. We're encouraging people to keep social distance, and you need to have your mask if you're coming over to worship, or you can stream us here on Facebook or on YouTube. All right, blessings. We'll see you later. Bye.